It is not in our cities or townships, it is not in our agricultural or mining areas that the Australian attains full consciousness of his own nationality. It is in places like this. To me, the monotonous variety of this interminable scrub has a charm of its own, so grave, so subdued. This recordless land. She is committed to no usages of petrified injustice. She is clogged by no fealty to shadowy idols. She is cursed by no memories of fanaticism and persecution. She is innocent of hereditary national jealousy and free from the envy of sister states.
So wrote Joseph Furphy in the 1890s in his classic novel Such is Life, in which the contractors, known as bullockys, are hunted across the landscape, stealing grass from under the merciless eyes of the landowners. Such is Life shows a man in love with his birthplace, her political virginity and her unspoiled natural attributes. But if wild Australia was his Eden, it was an Eden red in tooth and claw, and its settlers felt a constant anxiety that a child might be lost in its unmapped and unforgiving reaches. As a young man, Joseph Furphy was involved in 2 bush searches for 4 lost children. These experiences inevitably found their way into his literature.
Oh, it's young Thompson.
Hello, lads.
A hard ride, you boy.
They're all hard, aren't they? It's all nice when they're hard.
Thompson told a story well. He used to practice the accomplishment mentally as he sauntered along beside his bullock team. He knew his own superiority. His acquaintances knew it too, and they also knew he knew it.
We were at the shepherd's hut at Kalkaroo. We'd been yarning for hours, and the station hands were about ready to retire. We heard someone coming in a hurry.
Child lost on Goolumbulla. Rory O'Halloran's little girl. Anyone know where there's any black fellas? Anyone know where there's any black fellas?
No.
Nobody knew.
Well, race horses wherever you can and clear it once. 1 man for the next few days will be worth a regiment very shortly.
No, there we go. How about that? Okay.
The lost child was Mary, the daughter of a station hand, Rory O'Halloran. Rory was her guide, philosopher and crony, her overwhelming ideal of power, wisdom and goodness. It was a new position for him, and he grasped it eagerly.
How you going? Good. That's good. How you been? That's good. I brought something for you, a feather. Did you get the feather?
Thank you.
That's all right.
What type of bird did you get?
Oh, I think it's out of a parrot, some sort of parrot.
The whole current of his affections, repulsed by the world's indifference, found lavish outlet here. They'd been clearing all the ewes off Goolumbulla station. Valuation for mortgage, I'm thinking. Every man on the station had been called in to muster the ewes. You know how thick the scrub is on Goolumbulla. Rory came in along with the rest. They swept the paddock the first day for about 3 parts of the ewes. The second day they got most of what was left. But Spanker wanted every hoof, and he kept all hands on for the third day. Seems the little girl didn't trouble herself the first day. But the second day there was something peculiar about her, asking her mother strange questions. Up to this time, she had never said a word about the man that was found dead near their place a couple of months before. But she knew all the particulars. She was very fond of her father, and this affair of the man perishing in the scrub was working on her mind. Third morning after Rory had gone, after breakfast her mother went out to milk the goats. When the woman came back, she found the child gone. So putting everything together, her mother decided that she'd gone into the scrub to look for her father. There was no help to be had nearer than the home station, everyone away at the muster. So she cleared for the station, 12 miles. Got there about 3 in the afternoon, not able to stand. They got a horse in, and off went Mrs. Spanker to give the alarm. When Rory got the news, he only remarked that she might have found her way back. Then he went for home as hard as his horse could lick. Three of us got to Goolumbulla homestead just after sunrise. There was tucker on the table and for our horses. And during the 20 minutes or so that we stayed, they gave us the outline of the mishap.
Good morning, men. Thanks for coming this morning. We've got a very big job on our hands, and I'm sure we'll all put in our best effort. I want a couple of you to go out this track here to the fence, follow the fence out to Peter's paddock, and then fan out from there. The rest of you out this track, fan out onto the plain. Keep your eyes peeled, and good luck to all of you. Thanks for coming.
The main thing was blackfellas. Did anybody know where to find a blackfella now that he was wanted? Seems there had been about a dozen of them camped near the tank in the cattle paddock for a month past. But they were just gone. Nobody knew where. After breakfast at the station, we rode out and had gone about 7 miles.
How far is it yet to Rory's place?
5 mile. Got tracks?
Got tracks. Got tracks.
Bob Bruce. He's a lonely individual. Give him his due, he's a great tracker. Hard to beat him in the backcountry. The little girl had been out 24 hours by this time. She was running the track of somebody who had rode out that way a few days before, thinking it was her father's horse, poor little thing. Half a mile and she lost the horse's track. Then Bob lost hers. Presently he picked it up again, but now there was only her little boot marks to follow. Rory's dog had run the scent of his horse for hundreds of miles. It would smell the track of the little stockinged foot only a few hours old and would wag his tail and bark to show he knew whose track it was. But it was no use trying to start him on the scent. How were they going to make him understand a child was lost? I compare tracking to reading a letter written in a good business hand. You mustn't look at what's under your eye. You must see a lot at once and keep a general grasp of what's on ahead, besides spotting each track you pass. Otherwise you'll be always turning back for a fresh race at it. And you must no more confine yourself to actual tracks than you would expect to find each letter correctly formed. You must just lift the general meaning as you go. One thing in favour of Bob was that she kept a fairly straight course, except when she was blocked by porcupine or supplejack. We found where she slept. She had made 12 or 14 miles in the day's walk. She had taken off her boots when her feet got sore and walked on in her socks.
God help us if we don't find a black fella quick.
Do what we could, it was slow, slow work, and Bob was the only one that could make any show at all in running the track. Friday morning now, and the little girl had been out 48 hours. In the forenoon, one of the Kalkaroo men came galloping through the scrub.
Here, Bob, we found the little girl's billy at the fence in Peter's paddock, where she crossed. Take this horse, 2 miles, straight out there. Get up!
She had laid her things down to get through the fence, and then went on without them. We lost her then. Then up comes Spanker with a lubra sitting in the back of his buggy. She was blind in one eye, but she knew her business, and she was on the job for life or death. She picked up the track at a glance and run it like a bloodhound. Very rarely, hardly ever, we could see what signs the lubra was following, but she was all right. Uncivilised even for an old lubra. Nobody could yabber with her but Bob. But in some cases, a person's all the better for being uncivilised. You see, we were nowhere beside Bob, and Bob was nowhere beside the old lubra. As fast as they came, they scattered out in front, right and left, and one cove walked a bit behind Bob with a frog bell, shaking it now and then to give the fellas their latitude. We judged the little girl had made about 17 miles to where the lubra got on her track, and we added something like 4 to that. Though mind you, we were only about 12 or 14 miles from Rory's place and 8 or 10 from the home station. Dusk fell, and the lubra could no longer make out any tracks. Longest night I ever passed, though it was one of the shortest in the year. Once I heard the howl of a dingo, and I thought of the little girl lying worn out, half asleep and half fainting, far more helpless than a sheep. And I made up my mind if she came safe, I would lead a better life for the future.
Did you hear that?
Yeah, I did. I thought it sounded out that way, did you?
Oh, I thought it was out here.
Oh, I thought it was over that way.
Look over here.
And I'll go back this way.
Come on.
Williamson had heard it too. He thought it was north. I knew it was east.
Pickaninny plenty tumble down here.
The lubra showed Bob where the pickaninny had tumbled down again, getting very weak on her feet, she says.
Pickaninny sleep here last night.
It was pitiful. but we knew we were close on her at last. It was within 100 yards of the spot I made for when hearing the first call. By this time, of course, she'd been out for 72 hours. Asleep, we hope. But no. She had been walking along less than half an hour before and pushed between these bushes to avoid some prickly scrub. And she fell with her head down the slope. And that was the end of her long journey. She was played out to the last ounce, and she died without a struggle. That little girl had walked nothing less than 22 miles. Might be nearer 25. Nothing is more astonishing than the distances lost children have been known to traverse.
Mary.
Not one of us could find a word to say. Poor Rory. He walked behind the wagonette all the way back to the homestead. He had heard her voice calling him not an hour before. And now, if he lived till he was 100, he would never hear it again.